Welcome to The Path. This podcast is a production of the men's ministry of First Baptist Church in Hendersonville, Tennessee.
Welcome back to the Path Podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Tarkington. Today we are joined by Dave McLaughlin. I'm excited about having him on. Dave's in the, Connect group, the men's Connect group class that I lead. And so I've gotten to know him, really over the past kind of year of him being in that group and just learning little bits about him as we go through that. And I think this is going to be a great episode, an interesting episode, and something that can reach a lot of men out there. So thanks for being here, Dave.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm honored that you asked me to be here. And like I said, my story, and I hope it's a good story and reaches some folks. And I think, like you said, it's going to be a very interesting episode. And we'll be all over the board in some places with some things I've done.
Yeah. So just give a little background on him. Dave was a Marine. He's also been a police officer. I don't even know what you do now. I know he also serves here at the church doing the golf cart ministry, which sounds funny, golf cart ministry, but it's a large church. We have a big parking lot, so we drive golf carts around on Sundays to pick people up and drive them up to the church. And I will tell you, the kids absolutely love it. They could be parked in the very first row right next to the building, but if there's a golf cart coming by, they want to get on that golf cart. I'm sure you've seen that.
Oh, yeah. And most of them, they want to ride on the very back end.
Yes. Yeah. Like I know my young girls, and they see it, they want to ride on the very back of it by themselves without a parent sitting with them. And I'm like, oh my gosh, they're going to go flying off of that thing. But no, it's great. And it's a great way, it's a great way to be able to serve at the church and do something that's fun and enjoyable because everybody's always happy when they get a golf cart ride. So,
oh, yeah.
But as we get started, we'll see how many directions this episode goes. I think it's going to be a great one, though. But to get started, Dave, why don't you tell us about where you grew up, what life was like for you, if you grew up in Tennessee or where?
Yeah, actually, born and raised in Tennessee. I was born in Dixon County. All my family's from the South Cheatham area and lived there probably until mid-elementary school. And then, but I can still remember, and here I am. Like I said, I just turned 49 years old, and I can still remember getting indoor plumbing at 7 years old.
Oh wow!
Yeah. A lot of people they're like, "What?" I was like, "Oh yeah, we were still rural South Cheatham County back then." But yeah, and then my parents moved us over to Dixon County. Like I said, I was probably in fourth grade when we moved to Dixon County, and a lot of it was the school systems were better in Dixon County at the time, and the opportunities. You got to think this is the mid '80s at that time. So we moved to Dixon County, and I went through the Dixon County school system, public schools there in Dixon County, and really became part of the Dixon County community. Graduated Dixon County High School. And became a Dixon County boy. Yeah.
So high school, what were you involved in high school? Did you sports clubs?
Yeah.
Just going to school so you could get done with school? Or
right. Actually, so I played trumpet some in the band. I was one of those guys, but I was also a soccer and baseball player. And then I hit the high school level, and I had to make a choice because both were spring sports, and it was I could be a starter on varsity playing soccer, or I could play JV baseball. So I was like, hey, I'm gonna play soccer. I'm gonna get more playing time. So I really swung more towards soccer, and that was in the early days of the program in Dixon County.
What was your home life like? Were you with mom and dad? Were they together or?
Yeah. So, my parents were married, until my dad passed away he passed away New Year's Eve, 2014. So yeah, my parents were married my entire life. Yeah, it was, Roy and Sue McLaughlin, but got uncles that live over here in Hendersonville as well. But yeah, they're my mom's still alive. She remarried a few years ago, and she lives down in Athens, Alabama now. So, but yeah, home life was great. You know, I had that core family. My dad was he was a working man. He was a simple man, but a hard working man. He grew up on the farm and instilled a lot of work ethic in my brother and myself. You know, there was days that, you know, I can recall my dad working every day but Christmas. But yeah, that was my home life, and mom handled a lot of things around the house, and dad went to work. And then I can remember when I got older, right as I was getting out of high school, my mom, actually, it was probably, no, I was in junior high when my mom went to work for Vanderbilt University. Is when she went to work for Vanderbilt. So, and part of that was, I know I could have gone to Vanderbilt University because at that time, the university employees, their kids got tuition discounts through Vanderbilt.
Right.
And then big discounts at state schools. And I had excellent grades. And then I decided I was going to join the Marine Corps instead of go to college. You know, my dad being an Army veteran, he was all about it. And my mom, I know she was kind of disappointed. She's like, you know, here I am, I'm working at the university. We got a big discount. And as smart as you are, you're not going to college.
You mentioned you had a brother. Is he an older brother or younger?
No, I'm the oldest. I'm the oldest of three. My brother is almost 2 years younger than I. He actually lives in Scobie, Montana. And then I've got a sister. She's 8 years younger than I. And she still lives in Dixon.
Okay. What was life? Did y'all get along, or was brothers 2 years apart? Was it a lot of fighting with each other, or what was that like?
Well, you know what? I mean, yeah. So it was one of those deals, you know. He and I can fight and pick on each other, but, you know, blood's thicker than water.
Right.
Nobody else is going to mess with the other one, right? Anybody else steps in there, and the other one's coming to the defense, right? But no, we did squabble quite a bit growing up, like brothers do, and we did a lot of things together. And I'll say we still have a pretty good, close relationship now.
As close as it can be.
As close as it can be with him living in Montana, yeah.
Yeah.
But you know, and our sister, she was, you know, 8 years younger than I. And that,
so she was a little kid.
Yeah, that's it. You know, and that was Daddy's girl. You know what? You go over there and do your thing, and we're gonna go do this.
So you're in high school. Did you continue doing band and also playing soccer? Or
I did. So I played the trumpet and did marching band. I did some concert band. You know, throughout high school, but you know, primarily extracurricular wise, you know, marching bands in the fall and soccer was in the spring.
Right. So what was church life like growing up? Were you all involved in a church, or were you not?
Yeah. So I'll go back to when we lived in Cheatham County, a little bitty community by the name of Craigie Hope. It's between White Bluff, Kingston Springs, and Pigram, and right across the Dixon-Cheatham County line into Cheatham County. And little bitty community church, and it was a Methodist church. It was the only church in the community, and everybody in the community went there. And you know, so we would go there when I was younger. And then when we moved to Dixon, we really didn't go to church. And I'm trying to think what year it was. I think it was my 8th grade year of junior high. I met this girl, And I'm like, man, I like this girl. And, it took me a while to get up the courage to ask her out, say, hey, will you, be my girlfriend at the skating rink on Friday night, and, but yeah, so I did that, and then got to hanging out with her, and she asked me to church, and so I started going to church with her, and that was what really laid the groundwork for me in my Christian life. At the time, my parents weren't going to church. It just wasn't something that they did. My dad worked a lot. My mom was trying to raise kids and work around the house, and we had one vehicle in the family, and a lot of times my dad was working. And then, fortunately, we got to a point where I think at some point, we had another vehicle, and then I think my mom started going to church. But I was going to a Baptist church, and my mom started attending the Church of Christ. That's how she was raised, and there was a couple times she tried forcing me to go on a Sunday morning and Sunday evening, and it just night and day difference.
Yeah.
And we had those battles as a teenager, and like I said, that young lady that I'd gone to the skating rink with, that kind of became a routine thing for about a year and a half or so. And I would go to church with her and her family, and then there in Dixon at Restoration Baptist. And that's kind of what laid the groundwork.
I'm pretty sure, and there's been other guys on here, you're not the only young male to be end up at a church because of a girl.
That seems to be a common theme at a lot of places, right?
It's a great outreach strategy for churches.
I'm telling you.
Hey, young teenage girls, go find a guy. Invite him to church. I'll probably come. But the other thing you said about when y'all were in Cheatham County and going to the church, and it was like the community church, and it makes me think like where my grandparents lived in rural West Tennessee, and the church that was closest to them, they went to was a Baptist church. But how many of those people growing up in communities like that they ended up being in the denomination they're in just because that was the closest church and the one in their community, so that's just where they went, regardless of if it was Methodist, Church of Christ, or Baptist, or whatever.
Exactly.
That they went because of the proximity to where they lived. Where, you live somewhere like in Hendersonville, and you have, driving, my house is like maybe a mile and a half from here, and I think there's like 8 churches between here and my house.
Right. Throw a baseball and see which one you hit.
Right, and of multiple denominations. So, you get your plethora of choices that way, where in rural areas a lot of times you don't, or if you do, you're gonna be driving a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So like you said, I guess you went to Dixon County High School.
Yes, I went to Dixon County High School.
So you graduate in 95?
Yeah, in 1995. That was when there was only the one high school in Dixon County.
Okay, so you graduate high school, and then is it like I'm signing up for the Marines right now and going, or was that?
So I'd made the decision my senior year of high school that I was going to go ahead and go into high school, go on to the Marine Corps, and I signed into what they call the delayed entry program and started knocking time off my contract. I was 17 years old. My parents had to sign for me. My mom reluctantly. I think my dad had to twist her arm a little bit, but she signed. And then 10 days after graduating, I was standing on the infamous yellow footprints at Parris Island, South Carolina.
So, and I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't it like when you join the Marines, you don't get to pick your job? Like it's kind of like assigned as you're going, where other branches you get to go through and look at all these different job categories. But when you enlist in the Marines, I I don't know that you could do that, do you?
So with the Marine Corps, you get to pick your occupational field,
Okay.
but you don't get to pick your exact job.
Okay.
So you can pick the O3 field, which is infantry. And then the Marine Corps will assign you based on a phrase that you will hear.
The needs of the Marine Corps.
You will hear commonly throughout your career in the Marine Corps, based on the needs of the Marine Corps, whether you're an 0311 rifleman, an 0341 mortarman, an 0331 machine gunner, 0351 assaultman, 0352 tow gunner, or if you go into the 04 field, which is logistics, 01, which is admin. You get to pick that. So the first two numbers are the occupational field designator. You don't get to pick the last two numbers, though.
So what did you pick?
I picked 03. I went into infantry.
You're a young guy ready to get after it.
That was it.
Like,
that was
on,
it.
Let's get some. I'm picking infantry.
Yeah. If I had known then what I know now.
But when you go in 1995, this is a peacetime military.
It was actually peacetime.
So, and was for what, 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
And there's little skirmishes that would take place and stuff. But so you're going in. And I'm sure that helped with your mom's decision making. You're going into a peacetime military, maybe a little bit. I'm sure,
Probably
maybe not
a little
lot,
bit.
but a little bit.
Yeah.
So you get out of high school, you go to Parris Island. What was that like? What was that? What was your thoughts when you get there? And you're like, was it ever like, what did I sign up? What did I get myself into? Or was it, I love every bit of this, or a mixture of that?
Oh no, I'm going to tell you right now. Your first night on the island, you're bussed in late at night. Everybody is flown in to the airport there in Savannah, Georgia, and they take you down into the basement and feed you what we would later refer to as box nasties, box lunches that are like a day old, and and make you put your head down. And you're met as soon as you come off the plane. By a Marine drill instructor. They're not wearing that infamous campaign cover out there at the airport, but they're drill instructors, and they take you down there, and real quick that they're in charge. But they'll tell you, put your heads down, get you some sleep. This is going to be the last sleep that you get until tomorrow night. And it was about 11:30, midnight. Buses pulled up out on the tarmac, load us all up on a bus, and roll us up to the main gate there at Parris Island, and then across the causeway. I think it was probably about 1 o'clock or so in the morning. Something similar to that. And then it's all a blur from there, nothing but yelling, trying to figure out you can do nothing right, and getting rid of your hair and your clothes and getting what Uncle Sam wants you to have, and going through medical and everything else, getting all your issue. But it's pretty much a 24-hour blur before you get to lay your head down. And it's, here it is. I'm a 17-year-old kid thinking, when I first lay my head down that next night in my rack, thinking, what have I gotten myself into? And I actually shipped on what we called the buddy program. Real good friend of mine that I went to school with. He and I shipped, and part of that program was, you're going to be in the same platoon and everything. And we were in the same platoon there during receiving, and then something happened. I noticed something happened that he automatically got pulled out, and he wasn't with us anymore. I'm like, what in the world's going on? Next thing I know, we get back to the squad bay, and there he is in his green on green PT gear. And we finally, they call lights out, and then after the drill instructor goes into the hut, then you can get out of the rack. And I'm like, what's going on, dude? He goes, well, he says, they're sending me home. They're sending me over to casualty company. I'm like, what do you mean? He said, during the eye test, they found out that I had a detached retina. He said, so I can't be in the Marine Corps. I was like, golly. So, yeah. So
But you are.
Yeah. So there I was. I'm like, golly, and I'm thinking, not only what have I done, what have I got myself into? Now I'm in it by myself with nobody that I know. And I was an early shipper. I was one of, other than Chris, one other guy that was just a high school grad. Everybody else was either in college, had graduated college, or had been out of high school for at least a year or so.
So you're the youngest guy.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely the youngest guy. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I'd be lying to say when I laid there weren't tears streaming down my cheeks that night.
Are you trying to hide that while you're laying there too?
Oh no, there was no. I was just laying there. But I still remember that just as vividly as yesterday. But yeah, that was very shock and awe, as they would say.
How long did it take going through basic for that to start to change? Where the mindset's like, what I get myself into, to where you're like, kind of like, I'm glad I'm here. Maybe not glad you're in basic, but like, well, I made the right decision.
About a week or so. You get used to the routine. And that's what everything is about. It's about routine. And with the Marine Corps, it took me a while to come to the idea. I've had people tell me, they brainwash you. I'm like, no, they don't. No, they don't. Okay, yeah, they brainwash you. Okay, they break you down and build you up. That's what we call it. But in effect, so it's a process to it, and there's several different phases, and so you're in that receiving phase as they're building what they call the training company. The pipeline is different recruits are coming in. The Army, when they get to boot camp, they call them privates. When they get the Navy, they call them sailors. Airmen, when they get to boot camp with the Air Force. In the Marine Corps, you're a recruit, you're a maggot, you're everything but a Marine. You have to earn that title. So as recruits, we had and as Marines, Black Friday happens every Friday, not just in December. So what happens is through the week, they're building a training company. And on Friday, all those platoons get dropped to their training company. And that's where you meet your drill instructors that you're going to have for your full cycle. And that's probably the most hectic and most stressful day. There's so many YouTube videos out there on Black Friday. It's not even funny. You'll meet your drill instructors. They'll take their oath from your series commander, company commander, and then next thing you know, they're all up in your face, and you breathed wrong, But it's all a mental thing, and once you realize that it's all mental, and it's about discipline, everything else is smooth sailing from there. I mean, you just got to check into it and buy into the program.
And how many weeks is that? Isn't it like 12,
13?
13 weeks.
13.
So you have 13 weeks of that. But I'm sure it changes over time to where it gets from the breaking down to the building you back up.
Correct.
And by that 13th week, it's not still, I'm sure there's a lot of yelling going on, but not the same as it was that first week.
Right. No, they'll still let you know, you're not on the bus yet. But yeah, so, you'll go through that first phase, and that first phase, what we call first phase, that's the primary phase of breaking individuals down and getting rid of that individual mentality and that what we would call a civilian mentality, and making people think as a team. And in the Marine Corps, when you're in Marine Corps recruit training, you're not allowed to speak in the first person. You speak in the third person at all times. If you need to make a head call, it's this recruit request permission to make a head call, or recruit request to ask the drill instructor. You don't say drill instructor's going to say, what, you think am I a female sheep now? It's one of those type deals, but it builds that camaraderie. And you're only as strong as the weakest link, correct? And you've experienced that in a paramilitary as police officer, right? With the military, there's things that you're doing. Everybody has to be on the same page to complete the same mission at the same time at all times. And that's what they're looking for. And then about halfway through, they'll start building you back up. But the biggest thing is implementing that discipline and the instant, willingness and obedience to orders. Because when the time comes, there's no time for hesitation. And that's what we're looking for in America's military. So
you're going through. Is there anything that stands out to you from basic training as a very significant moment that from those 13 weeks?
I would say probably my most significant moment was the day I graduated.
And that's when you get your
Eagle
Globe and Anchor, right?
Yeah. So back in 1995, that was pre-Crucible. So a lot of people know about the Crucible. The Crucible came about in 1996, and prior to that, we had what we called BWT, which was Basic Warrior Training. And upon completion of that, you were still a recruit. You didn't get your Eagle, Globe, and Anchor. You were not called Marine. The first time you were called Marine was when you were dismissed at graduation. That was when you were a Marine. You didn't get your Eagle, Globe, and Anchor. You got to wear it the Thursday before graduation on Friday morning. You got to wear your Eagle, Globe, and Anchor on your cover for inspections and for family day. Then you were called Marine for the very first time that day you graduated.
What'd that feel like?
That was probably that was the proudest I had been of myself. That was the most accomplishing thing I'd done in my life to that point. I really, I can still remember that day, and there's some people that they say you'll never forget in your life. It's been 31 years. I'll never forget Staff Sergeant Ruff, who was my senior drill instructor, Sergeant Hughes, who was my heavy, my third hat, Sergeant Link, and then Sergeant Abney, who was a new drill instructor that we picked up halfway through our cycle. Any Marine will never forget their drill instructors. They'll never forget their name. They'll never forget their look. Never forget their voices. It's one of those deals, and I'll remember those guys till the day I die. As a matter of fact, I actually had a conversation with now retired Sergeant Major Link about a month ago. So, we stay in contact. Marine Corps is a small branch.
Right. So did you have any family come to your graduation?
Yeah. So my mom, dad, my brother and sister, they came down to Paris Island, and so they came down. I think they made a vacation of it that week, and they'd gone to Hilton Head and.
I don't think Paris Island is a place people go to vacation.
Right. So they went over to Hilton Head, and they came over on Thursday for family day, and they came to the graduation, and I'll still never forget. Couple days prior, it was on Wednesday of graduation week. We had gone back through the supply property, and it's like the old grocery paper sacks, right? The night you get there, when you strip your civilian clothes off, you put everything, to include your underwear, socks and underwear that you wear to the island, tennis shoes, in that bag. Anything that you wore goes in that paper bag. And that Wednesday before you graduate, we went and got them picked them up, and I'll still never forget our drill instructors telling us, you don't put those on until you get off this island. You're leaving this island in this uniform. So I remember getting in the van and leaving, and my parents saying, well, do you want to go up to Hilton Head for a day and spend a day at the beach? I said, no, I want to go home. I'm ready to get back to Tennessee. I've had enough time enjoying the sand of South Carolina.
So how much time did you have after graduating boot camp until you have to go to your next school?
So we had 10 days. So I had 10 days, and then I had to report to the School of Infantry at Camp Geiger, which is part of Camp Lejeune in Jacksonville, North Carolina.
How long is that?
11 weeks. I had to think about it.
So when you get to that, because everybody going to that is also new.
Fresh
out of basic training. Are you being treated the same or a little bit different?
A little bit better, but not much. You're still Marines. You're a boot, so to speak. They're still pretty strict. You're a new Marine, and I look back on it now.
If they let a lot of new Marines loose, it would probably not be good.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And all you kept hearing is, well, when you get to the fleet, and it's like, I'm just ready to get to the Fleet Marine Force, So, but yeah, so the, when you go to, everybody goes to the School of Infantry. That's one thing about the Marine Corps. And you'll hear the phrase that every Marine is a rifleman. So every Marine goes through School of Infantry. And if you hold an infantry MOS, which is an 03 MOS, then you will go through Infantry Training Battalion. All other MOSs will go through what we call MCT, Marine Combat Training. And I think that is 6 weeks is what they do. And that is to give them the basic infantry skills. Whether you're a flute player in the band, an admin clerk, or a logistics bubba.
So would the pilots even go through that?
Pilots are officers, and that's completely different.
Okay.
On the enlisted, this is all on the enlisted side.
Okay.
But yeah, air crewmen, anybody, with that, they would go through it. Everybody goes through it. And we'll get to some of the reasonings behind some of that later on, I'm sure. But, when the time comes, I actually had a drill instructor. He was a Motor T operator. And you think I went in 95, he was in the Gulf War. He wasn't there as a Motor T operator. He was there as a machine gunner. He filled the billet of a machine gunner.
Right.
Running security. So that's part of the reasoning why. Part of the 2nd Mar Div band during Desert Storm, Desert Shield, Desert Storm, I should say. Part of the 2nd Mar Div band filled in as perimeter security, manning weapons. So that's
every
part
Marine
of it.
has that.
Every Marine has
infantry, understanding of infantry.
Yeah, that's it. That's
how
it.
How to act as a Marine, not this whatever that specific career field they have.
So I went on to ITB, and then what you do there is the first 4 weeks with ITB is pretty much very similar to the 6-week program that they do in MCT. And then you'll go into the breakdown, what they call the breakdown, and that's where you break down into the different weapon systems that you're going to specialize in the infantry side of the house. And then you'll spend 7 or 8 weeks doing that.
So you finish all that, then what's going
on? So then you get orders to the fleet based on the needs of the Marine Corps. I wound up with orders to Victor 3-2. Victor is a designator for an infantry unit. So I wound up going to 3rd Battalion, 2nd Marines, in 2nd Marine Division on Camp Lejeune. And I wound up over there. And I get there in the fall of 95. by the following summer, so the summer of 96, as a matter of fact, it's kind of my birthday, I spent flying to Japan. Spent my birthday on a plane flying to Japan. We did what we called a UDP, unit rotation to Japan. So I was on Okinawa, Japan for 6 months for the last half of 1996. Got to do a lot of fun stuff in Japan, infantry training, experiencing life in cultures of Okinawa. At one point, we got mobilized up to South Korea. There had been a North Korean sub run aground, and they couldn't find 2 of the crew members. So there was a long search for those guys. Wound up finding them dead later, but we took advantage of that and did some training with the ROK Marines, ROK being Republic of Korea, and what we refer to as our 60-mile death march. We actually did a 60-mile force march while we were there as part of training. And I think that was our company commander's way to try to prove to the ROK Marines that we were tougher than they were.
Did it work?
I think we all thought he was crazy, both us and the ROK Marines. But yeah, so and then we during that time prior to leaving, I got engaged prior to leaving.
Was this to the girl that?
So
was
you
taking
remember
you to
this girl
church?
that took me to church?
Right.
So I got engaged to her. She and I had broke it off for a while, and I came home on Christmas leave. Actually, it had been prior to that. We'd been talking. This is days prior to cell phone, right? We had what we call phone centers. You get a little phone card, you go over and you call home, and somehow or another, I got in contact with her, and she had written me a letter, I think is what it was. But she was living a hard life, and we got to talking, and when I came home on Christmas leave in 95, and I was like, hey, this is what you need to do. If you want to start dating, this is what I want to see, and I want to see you clean your life up. And she had dropped out of high school. Go back and either get your adult diploma or GED or something. And lo and behold, she did. She went back and she got her diploma. She got back in. She was working her butt off. And so prior to leaving, I popped the question, and she said, yeah. So I came back, and we got back from Japan, and right before Christmas of 96, and with an infantry unit, one of the big things that recruiters tell you all the time, yeah, you get 30 days leave, 30 days vacation. Yeah, but when you go into these infantry units, you don't get to pick when you use it. They tell you when you can use it.
At the needs of the Marine Corps?
At the needs of the Marine Corps, So there's this thing called block leave. And if you're going to take leave outside of block leave, it's either an emergency or special circumstances. Special circumstances, you've got to get approved well in advance. And I wanted to take leave in January and extend my leave out further in January instead of taking Christmas leave, block leave with the rest of the battalion. And so I got that approved while we were in Japan. And then I came back, and then in January, we got married, and she wound up, we made our home in Jacksonville, North Carolina. And that was in 97. And we got married in January 97, and the next thing I know is she's pregnant.
It's funny how that happens.
I know, right? And that was the
at least you did the right order.
Yeah, right. Right. I'll never forget coming in from a field op one day, and she said, I got something to tell you. I said, okay. She said, well, I'm pregnant. I said, well, how did that happen? She said, well, you were there.
Yeah.
But
you mentioned she's the one that had you going to church when you were younger. Are you a Christian at this point?
Yeah. I had become a Christian. I had become a Christian in high school.
Okay.
And I say all that. I had accepted the Lord as my Savior. And I was look, I've got to think about this now. I'm trying to even remember if I was baptized or not.
Yeah.
That's I don't remember. Yeah, I believe I was. I don't remember a whole lot about that though. But I was saved in high school. As a matter of fact, we go back to my days in recruit training. You had each platoon had what they called their lay readers, or as a drill instructor called them, chaps, and one Protestant and one Catholic. And I was the Protestant chaps for our platoon in recruit training.
So I was going to ask, like, you're this young Marine, you're getting married young. How much of an influence is your Christianity having on you at that point? Or is it like a lot of guys at that age frame, you're kind of wilding out a little bit?
I was wilding out at that point. I had started, really wilding out. I'm 19 years old, 18, 19 years old, away from
You're
home.
a Marine. You're ready to fight anybody.
That's it. I've
Drinking,
been told,
loving, fighting, being a Marine.
right. That's it. And, I get married and, I move off base. I'm out of the bricks, which is kind of our slang term for the barracks.
Yeah.
So I get out of the bricks and I'm not doing the drinking as much. And, I'm not hardly drinking anymore. I'm not drinking with the boys.
Right.
Like I used to on the weekends. So, I calmed that down and then we start, I'll still never forget, Michelle and I start going to a church. I met a guy, at a combined arms exercise in California, from Kilo Battery, which was an artillery battery there based at Camp Lejeune. And we'd gone to 29 Palms, California, and did what we called a combined arms exercise. And I just started talking to the guy. We was at the chow hall, waiting in line at the chow hall, and seen him a couple times, and we started talking. Next thing I know, he's talking about where he lives and wherever I live, and next thing we know, we're neighbors. And he's telling me where he goes to church, and I'm like, well, I'll try it. And he says, yeah, it's this Baptist church down here in off Piney Green. I'm like, okay, yeah, we'll try that. He left out the first free will part, so we get there, and so Michelle and I started attending that church, and it was a little different than what we were used to back here in Tennessee, especially with it being, a First Free Will Baptist Church versus going to First Baptist there in Dixon.
Right.
But anyway, we attended there for a while, and then 98 rolls around. Dylan was born in October of 97. That whole fall, we're doing what we're locked on and doing a workup for the 26th MU, which is the Marine Expeditionary Unit. So you always hear America's 911 force in readiness around the world. So the MU is a reinforced infantry battalion, a battalion landing team, embarked aboard an amphibious readiness group group of ships, And so we're locked on. It's a 6-month lock on and workup process. And we're deploying in January, going to the Mediterranean area. That's our AO. So we're in the field all the time that whole fall. Come January, we wind up leaving. Get to spend 7 glorious months aboard the USS Wasp, LHD-1. And our mode of transportation is helicopters. So, within the infantry battalion, you've got 3 different companies, and one flies off the ship, one goes off the back of the ship in amphibious assault craft, and the other goes off in Zodiac boats. I got to fly off, fortunately, and that was pretty fun. But we get over there and having a good time. We hit some ports of call, get some liberty. Liberty is naval term, we use for time off, and get to see some sights. We get back on ship, and we cruise around the Med and go to another one, go to another port and get liberty call, and then we got a call into Bosnia. So in 1998, we flew into Bosnia, and the area that was a hot spot at that point in time was Sarajevo. So we flew into Sarajevo, right outside of, and I still remember flying in and seeing the old Olympic Stadium that they had there in Sarajevo from the Olympics, and just to see the condition that it was in. And I remember coming off the birds and the helicopter and thinking, oh my gosh, you school yourself up and you get all these briefs, but you weren't prepared for all the landmines. You hear about it, but when you get off and you actually see them, you just see the landmines sitting there. So that was very eye-opening for a young 19-year-old.
As a 19-year-old, and like we said earlier, you're in a peacetime military at that time, and you're a Marine, and you've gone through a lot of training and everything. How much of a part of you and your other Marines is it like y'all are wanting the fight? Like this, wanting that fight to pop off somewhere.
That's everything.
Y'all get to go.
Yeah, that's everything. And the one thing you'll hear from infantry Marines, especially during that time, peacetime back in the 90s, is, hey, I want my car, I want my car, I want my car. And a car is a combat action ribbon. And I want my car. And we're like, hey, we're about to go get some. And it was a big show of force is really what it was. We didn't really get into any action. At that time, Slobodan Milosevic had, we served our purpose. He decided, cool his jets right there. And then, so we went back out to sea, made some more port calls, had some fun.
You didn't get your car through that.
Didn't get our car.
So you're sitting there, you're training all the time for this fight you want to be in, and the fight's just not happening.
It's not happening.
So then you probably start fighting each other some.
Hey, it happens. It happens.
As you go through that, so that's what, 3 years in since you enlisted? Mm-hmm. Did you enlist? How long did you enlist for, that initial enlistment?
So it was a 4x4 contract, 4 years active, 4 years inactive.
Okay.
Everybody signs a minimum of an 8-year MSO, military service obligation. So it depends on how you break that down. I was a 4x4. Depends on what your schooling is. If you've got a longer school, they're going to make you do a 5x4. Most of the time, if you're going to go reserve, they're going to make you do a 6x2. Where you have to drill for 6 years and you owe inactive 2 years. And that's what we've used to replace, quote unquote, replace the draft, is we have the inactive ready reserve. There's still the selective service out there, But we have the inactive ready reserve, which is made up of individuals who still have obligation left on their time. If they go into the military and they spend 4 years on active duty, well, they've still got 4 years that they could be recalled.
Okay. So you did your 4 years.
I did my 4.
Did you re-enlist at that point, or did you go to your?
No, I said, actually, I had sat down with a career planner and told him what I wanted. And he said, oh, yeah, we'll make it. And of course, now I'm going to tell you, a career planner, in order to be a career planner in any unit in the Marine Corps, you had to have been a recruiter first. I did not realize that initially. But I sat down and told him what I wanted. And, oh, yeah, we'll make that happen. We'll make that happen, Corporal McLaughlin. And when he came back, he said, well, this is what we got. I was like, well, hold on a minute. And he slid the contract in front of me. And I still remember taking the pen, and he thought I was going to sign it. And I just wrote void across it, and it slid it back to him. I said, the difference is I get to call the shots this time.
Right.
And I said, I'm just going to the first Civ Div. And I said, I'm going home. I said, if you're not going to give me what I want, I'm going home.
So that's in 1999?
That's in 1999.
So you're married?
Yeah.
Have what, a 1-year-old or so? 1 to 2-year-old at that time?
Yeah, he's 1 year old, 1 year old. And then prior to that, I mean, and shortly after that, of course, these re-enlistments, you got to do those about a year or so out. And so I get sent at that point. I've already got a secondary MOS of 8531, which is a small arms weapons instructor. So I get sent to a weapons and field training battalion. And I'm working weapons and field training battalion. Working a rifle range, and next thing I know, hey, Corporal Mac, your time's up. It's time you go back to your parent command. It's time for you to go home. And I get back, and the unit's getting ready to go to Bridgeport, California in January, Norway in February, March, and I'm getting out with all my terminal leave that I've saved up. I'm getting out at the beginning of April, and like, well, I'm too short for that. I get back and I'm turning my stuff in. First sergeant's like, Corporal McLaughlin, what are you doing? I was like, I'm getting out of here. First sergeant goes, oh, no, you're on the Bridgeport, Norway list. I was like, oh, no, I'm supposed to be checking out. And next thing you know, I'm doing a cold weather package in Bridgeport, Norway, and during those times is when that's when I had some really challenging times in my life. Keep in mind, we're a young couple, right? I was gone a lot. And I'm either in the field, training. When I was at Weapons and Field Training Battalion, it's early mornings. I've got to be on the range at about 4 o'clock every morning. Early mornings, early to bed. My wife is, she don't have any family around. And she's working a job there in town, and there's a frequent customer that comes in and works next door to her, and he starts paying her some attention, and so one thing leads to another, and she strays, and I find out, and that really solidified. That helped solidify me leaving the Marine Corps. It's like, okay, we're going back to Tennessee. We worked through a lot of that, and I said, I'll give it another shot, and so we moved back to Tennessee, and we came back to Tennessee. Life wasn't great at first. We were a young couple.
You don't have a job when you first get
Yeah.
back?
But fortunately, it only took me about a week. the company that my father-in-law worked at. I was able to go right to work with them. Worked with them for a few months while I was going through the process of getting hired as a police officer. And I'd applied at a couple different locations. And then one that I never thought of, and most people don't, is the airport here in Nashville. And I had an aunt that worked in purchasing there at the time. And she had said something to me. So I applied and went through the process. And Chief Dwayne McGray hired me. And so I became a public safety officer at the airport here in Nashville.
And airport's a little different because they do police, fire, EMS. So you go through all that.
That's
training.
it. That's it.
And you might be doing police on this day, and then the next day you're doing fire.
Mm-hmm.
And, so it's a little different than your regular police force that you see.
Oh yeah, it's and one day you may be walking a foot beat in the terminal, and the next you're on a fire truck, and then the next day you're on a patrol beat around the terminal and various airport properties.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of property around the airport that the airport owns that people don't realize. And keep in mind, this is all pre 9/11.
Okay, so you don't have TSA.
Yeah, there's no TSA.
Yeah, if you go to the airport, you can walk all the way to the gate without having a plane ticket.
That's it. And so yeah, it's a lot different at that point in time. And so you're the one, if those screeners, and the screeners at the time, like you said, they weren't TSA. They were contract, security screeners.
Yeah.
That really didn't make a whole lot of money. And we were relying on them to catch anything. And, they kick the button and it's up to the airport police to clear that. Airport police are responsible for, the security of the perimeter of the entire airport. So that was a big thing. You've got the FAR regulations as well as whatever criminal mischief may happen around the airport, because it does happen. You got to think, you have shops there, you have disorderlies. You get people that'll come in, they'll get drunk on a flight and come in, they'll be on a layover and they'll continue to get drunk at the bars there on the concourses. They'll have too many drinks on a flight and on their way back home to Nashville, and then they'll go out there in that parking garage and they'll get in their car and try to drive. You'll have domestics. One of them's mad because the other one spent too much money, gambled too much money away in Vegas. So you have a lot going on there at the airport. And I'll say, it was when I got there, it had just become its own accredited agency. Chief McGray had led that charge because prior to that, it was the commission for the airport was through Metro Nashville Police for those officers for their law enforcement powers. But Chief McGray led the charge to get that a CALEA accredited agency. So that's one thing with airport police is they are CALEA accredited.
Yeah. So how long were you at airport police?
I was there for 2 years. I was there through 9/11. And then after 9/11, so in January of 2002, I believe it was, I got recalled back into the Marine Corps.
So you didn't go in on you didn't go back and you see 9/11, I'm going back in the Marines right now. You were recalled back in?
Yeah, I was recalled back in. So what had happened there is after 9/11, the Marine Corps initiated what they call stop loss. So stop loss is stop loss, stop move. If you're due to get out, you're not getting out. If you're due to transition, you're not transitioning. Nobody's going anywhere. And that's also in order to involuntarily pull people from the individual ready reserve. Stop loss needs to be instituted, so that they can pull those people involuntarily. People can voluntarily come out of the IRR if they want to, but I'll never forget sitting in my recliner one morning after I came home, because I worked a midnight shift, and we knew Michelle had an aunt and uncle that he was a colonel in the Air Force at the time. They were stationed in Germany, and we knew something was supposed to be coming, and it gotten delayed or something for Christmas. And I was just sitting there, and I hadn't gone to bed yet, and FedEx truck pulls up in the driveway, and like, okay, maybe that's from Jim and Deb, you know? And so I go to the door, and it's an envelope, FedEx envelope. And she hands it to, she hands me the thing to sign, you know? And so I go to sign it, and she hands it to me and says, you know, well, here, this is from the Marine Corps. I hope it's not bad news. So I open it up, and it's a set of orders and a one-way plane ticket. I was like, well, so much for this. And it was a set of orders telling me I had to report January 4th. And I'll never forget that, because that was mine and Michelle's anniversary. I had to report to the Reserve Support Unit at Marine Corps Base Camp Lejeune in support of Operation Enduring Freedom. And if I had any questions, I needed to call McCursick, Marine Corps Reserve Support Command in Kansas City. So immediately I called
I was going to say, how long did it take you to make that phone call?
Yeah. Needless to say, I wasn't going to bed. So I called McCursick, and I was like, talk to me about this. And they said, well, it's a set of orders. But yeah. I said, it says I need to bring all my uniforms. I said, I've been out a few years. I said, one, I think I've got most of them. I said, but two, I've been out. I'm now a police officer. I found out I like donuts, and they don't fit. And that's the exact same. That's the exact same reaction that sergeant on the other end of the line had. And he said, "Well, he said, bring them with you anyway." He said, "And you can survey them," which is another term for turning them in and getting other ones. And that's exactly what I did. I took them with me to Camp Lejeune, and I got there and checked in civilian attire. And I'll never forget. I'll never forget that staff sergeant says, "Where are your alphas?" I said, "Well, I'm going to tell you what I told that other sergeant. They don't fit." I said, I was told I needed to survey them. "Oh, okay. Well, go down and get all your stuff surveyed." So I went and surveyed all my uniforms, got uniforms that fit, and said, "All right, now you're on the lunch bunch." And lunch bunch means you're PTing at lunch. You're going to get trimmed back down. And
it's a great fitness program.
Right. So, so I lost that weight pretty quickly. But because of stop loss, and keep in mind, you remember I said I worked at Weapons Training Battalion. And and what they do in the Marine Corps, those guys out there at Weapons Training Battalion, they are typically infantry Marines with a secondary MOS of 8531, which is a small arms weapons instructor. Keep in mind, I had that MOS, and I had previously worked at Weapons and Field Training Battalion. Well, it's stop loss. They're about to start activating all these reserve units. And in the Marine Corps, everybody in the Marine Corps from the rank of staff sergeant down and all lieutenants must qualify annually on the rifle. And all those guys are getting called back to their units because they got to beef those units back up because everybody's getting ready to deploy to Afghanistan. So they've got to replace these guys. So they're calling guys like me out of the IRR to come run the ranges. And when I was in the 90s, when I was there, I made a lot of connections, and I shot some matches. I pulled butts for some NRA matches. So I got pulled into what we call marksmanship training unit. So I was with Marksmanship Training Unit there for a while. And when I left that, while I was still on active duty there, I had already had an application in with Dixon County Sheriff's Office. And my time came up. And, so I had the opportunity. When I came off of orders, I went straight to work for Dixon County Sheriff's Office. And
are you were y'all living in Dixon at the time?
Yeah. So
a lot closer to home then, instead of having to drive to the airport.
Right.
That's one thing about airport police. You don't get a take-home car with airport police.
Oh, yeah. No.
You're driving your own car.
Driving your own. Yeah, I was driving back and forth from Dixon to Nashville every night. And then, going to work at the sheriff's office was a pretty good deal. Working the streets, and I was right there at home.
Yeah.
I wasn't falling asleep driving home every morning. Thoroughly enjoyed it. And then,
so are you still, you get out, are you a reserve at that point in the Marines or?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, at that point, I decide, I'm just going to stay in the reserve but I'm going to make a lateral move. So I made a lateral move of MOS's occupational specialty. So I went from infantry. I was like, you know what? I'm tired of walking everywhere. There's a reserve unit in Chattanooga that's artillery. Those guys get to ride around. They don't have to walk around. They ride. So I talked to a prior service recruiter because that's the way you have to do it if you want to make a lat move in the reserve coming from the active duty forces. And I became an artillery forward observer. What I didn't realize is when you're in training, you get your own Humvee and you go up on the hill and you sit there and smoke and joke and you call in fire missions while the battery's moving around. You're just sitting there. But when the rubber meets the road, you're back out there with the infantry battalions. But it's a lot nicer as an attachment. But I was so I was part of Mike Battery 414 in Chattanooga, later redesignated as 314. But in December of 2003, and let me backtrack a little bit. During this time, so in 2003, I had taken training orders, and I had obtained an additional MOS of civil affairs NCO, which is civil affairs at the time, both in the Army and in the Marine Corps, was strictly a reserve MOS. And with civil affairs, the biggest thing is it's a liaison between the local populace, local government, local military, and the United States military for whatever the area of operation is. And most people don't realize what was going on back then is, if we are trying to establish something in one of these countries, that's what your civil affairs guys are doing. The other aspect of civil affairs is you're advising the battle space commander on whatever his battle plan is. These are some of the repercussions that could come from it. And you want to try to help steer the military away from the local populace or historic landmarks, cultural landmarks, and vice versa. What can we do here? So that's part of civil affairs. So in December of 2003, I got what we call IMA orders, individual mobilized augmentee orders, to go augment 3rd Civil Affairs Group out of Camp Pendleton, California. And you talk about an experience. So here's good old D-Mac out of Tennessee going to augment this civil affairs unit in Southern California, made up of nothing but guys from Southern California.
A little bit different.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Hey, Mac, say that word again. You know? But, yeah, had a good time. And at the time, the mission was, we knew what the mission was coming down. And we knew that 1 MEF, Marine Expeditionary Force, was going to Iraq, that we were going to Al Anbar province, and that it was a hotbed there.
Is that where Fallujah is?
Fallujah is right there in Al Anbar. And we knew we were going there. And the 82nd Airborne is the unit that was there that we were relieving. And we were getting reports, obviously, from downrange. And General Mattis had a different plan. He was the division commander. And he and General Conway, who at the time was the MEF commander, they had a different approach. And their plan was going to be, hey, we're going to go in and we're going to do SASO operations, security and stabilization operations. We're going to turn this thing back over and allow them to govern themselves. And one of the quotes that came from General Mattis, you know, in our briefing was, you know, we're going to show them that the people of Iraq can have no better friend, but they can also have no worse enemy than the Marines of the 1st Marine Division. And our goal is to go over there and win their hearts and minds, and hopefully allow them to take over their country again.
How was that to get the buy-in of the young Marines going over there? Like, hey, we're going to go win the hearts and minds. Because, you know, you're
that quickly
18, 19-year-old Marine, a lot of them are.
Yeah.
You know, you're a little bit older and have some experience under your belt at that point.
Yeah, at that point, I'm a sergeant. Yeah, at that point, I'm a sergeant. And, you know, of course, you start hearing some of the grumblings of what we call the Lance Corporal Underground, you know, and to them, it starts becoming, you know, 2 to the heart and 1 to the mind, you know, and it's like, come on, guys, you know, that's not what we're here for. Unfortunately, that's kind of the way it turned. But you know, so that's what it turned into, you know. So we're leaving with that intent. And
as a sergeant, you're having to get the buy-in.
You got to get the buy-in. You have to get the buy-in of the troops. You got to get the buy-in of those Marines.
Yeah.
You know.
And that's where your leadership really kind of stands out, as being able to get that buy-in from them.
And here's, you know, so and the Marines are notorious for doing more with less, right? Here's the Army running around with, you know, A4s. We're still carrying M16s. And those are not M16s that the Marine Corps purchased. Those are M16s that we got from the Army when they got their A4s. So we're still carrying A2s, the M16 A2s. And then things were so sparse at the time because there were so many units getting mobilized. And keep in mind, this is late 2003 or early 2000, January 2004. There had been so much. The invasion was in 2003. And not only that, Afghanistan had already been going on.
Yeah.
Now, that invasion in Iraq was a very fast invasion. There was a lot of combat loss of gear. So trying to replace some of that gear. And here we are. Oh, you're a reserve unit.
This is Vietnam era flak jacket for you. Good luck.
Yeah. Fortunately, we did have the flaks with sappies, but we deployed with 2 magazines.
Yeah, that's not really combat effective.
No. Standard issue is 6. So when you deploy, when you going in for Iraq for the RIP relief in place, we flew into Kuwait, and we spent I think 4 days in Kuwait, Camp Victory in Kuwait, prior to flying up into country. And our second day there, I'm standing in this chow line. Chow lines are where everything happens, right? So I'm standing in the chow line, and I'm talking to this Army sergeant, and they're getting ready. They're coming back down south. They're heading back to the States, and he's telling me, yeah, they're headed back. And I'm like, yeah, man, I'm telling you, this is all they sent us with, and we don't have all this, and we've only got 2 magazines. He goes, they only gave y'all 2 magazines? And I'm like, oh yeah, man. I said, that's all we have. He said, hey, I want you to come see me this evening after chow. He says, I've got crates of them. I'm like, really? He said, yeah. I was like, all right. So after chow, I head back over to our hooch where our lance corporals and below are. And I was like, hey, I need a working party. And what's going on, Sergeant? I said, I just need a working party. I said, give me 4 bodies. I said, we're about to go acquire some gear. Let's go, boys. And they said, what? I said, yeah. I said, good old Sergeant Mac done met a supply sergeant from the Army going back stateside. I said, they got some extra gear for us. I didn't have a problem. One time in the Marine Corps, I never had a problem getting a working party. So we go over. I get 2 huge ammo crates full of magazines. I tell you, look, I'm getting chills just talking about that, And the guys just loved it, Man, Sergeant Mac, thanks for getting these magazines for us. And it's little things like that, just taking care of the Marines. The Army never missed those magazines.
No. So you're going there, you're getting ready, and y'all are about to be in Fallujah. Mm-hmm. Okay. So a little bit about Fallujah for those listening might not know. That was the bloodiest battle involving U.S. Marines since the Vietnam War, and there's comparisons between the Battle of Way City and the Pacific Campaign of World War II. Coalition forces, that's all the American allies that were there fighting, suffered a total of 107 killed and 613 wounded during Operation Phantom Fury. U.S. forces had 54 killed and 425 wounded in the initial attack in November. By December 23rd, when the operation was officially concluded, the casualty number had risen to 95 killed and 560 wounded. And then estimates of insurgent casualties are complicated because of lack of official figures. Most estimates place a number of insurgents killed around 12 to 1,500, with some as high as over as 2,000 killed. So this is a major battle. This isn't what the American forces have been used to seeing up to this point since, the 1960s and Vietnam.
Correct.
I guess the closest that would come to it is the short Battle of Mogadishu, which, short, the Battle of Fallujah was days,
Weeks.
months, days, weeks. It was long.
Yeah.
It wasn't, the one-day battle like you see in, I guess the reference is in Black Hawk Down, which was a very intense battle, which was in, I think, 95. So you're gearing up, and you're going over there. You have 2 magazines, which is 60 rounds, and just by giving those numbers there, that's not enough rounds to go and be combat effective.
Absolutely not.
So luckily, you meet this sergeant in the Army. You're able to acquire more magazines. So you're going in and go. At this point, you're getting ready to go to Fallujah. What takes place there?
So we, a couple nights later, we board a C-130 and fly to Camp Victory, and fly into Al-Taqaddum in the middle of the night. And at this point in my career, I have flown C-130s, C-5s, all kind of helicopters, been passing, and I'll never forget that C-130 flight. Everything starts off normal, and they let us know once we're starting our descent into Tecodum, and they let us know that, hey, guaranteed we'll be taking some anti-aircraft fire and some small arms fire. You're going to hear us deploying chaff and flare, and as we get closer, our tail gunners they're going to be firing. So we've got this, and sure enough, those two pilots.
That's also a different type of landing.
Oh yeah, it is
in a combat situation.
Oh
than
yeah,
your normal
and
going out landing on.
Yeah, I've had landings in those things before. That was a different type of landing. I mean, when that bird came down out of the sky,
and flares and everything being deployed. The dynamics of that landing.
Oh yeah, that was we're descending. Bam, we're on the ground. It was almost like a straight drop, and they put those things down quick. They come down out of the air quick, and they are meant for that type of landing. But it's like, wow, okay, welcome to the show, boys. Yep. So we sat around on the tarmac until the next night, actually. And then the next night we catch a flight. Keep in mind, our entire civil affairs debt is supporting all of the 1st Marine Division effort in Al Anbar province. Or the group, I should say, is. Now, our debt is supporting what we call RCT-1, Regimental Combat Team 1, 1st Marine Regiment, which is responsible for Fallujah. And the team that I'm on is responsible for Fallujah proper. We're getting OpConned out to 2nd Battalion 1st Marines, who is responsible for Fallujah proper. So we get there and we fly out Advon ahead of the rest of the group, ahead of the rest of the detachment. And we get there, we link up with our counterparts from the 82nd Airborne in Fallujah, what they call Dreamland. It's a little compound just east of what they call the Cloverleaf. It's a big intersection of the two main highways, one coming out of Baghdad heading west and the other coming down out of Ramadi heading south. And it's west of what is now modern day, what we wound up renaming Camp Fallujah. Camp Fallujah, until the Marines got there, just went by MEK, which is an abbreviation for, it was a Mujahideen training ground, is what it was. And then Dreamland was Uday Hussein's little playground. And the locals always called it Dreamland. When Colonel Olson, who was the battalion commander for 2nd Battalion 1st Marines, got on deck, he renamed it Camp Bahariya, which means sailor from the sea in Arabic, which loosely translates to Marines.
Right.
We met with our counterparts from the 82nd Airborne, and it's like, okay, give us the sit rep. What's going on out here? And oh no, we just let them do what they're doing. The Mooj is in there, and they've got control of the city, so we're just trying to go home. Okay, so you're just letting the problem fester. So now we've got to go in there and try to deal with that. Keeping in mind, we have overthrown the government of the nation of Iraq. Saddam Hussein had kept power in many different ways. One is the Muslims are 3 different sects in that country. You've got the Shia, the Sunni, and the Kurds. And then sporadically from Baghdad to the north, you've got the Chaldean Christians. But they are such a minority. Keeping in mind, Saddam was a Sunni. The Sunni and Shia don't get along. And neither one of them get along with the Kurds. And the Kurds hate them both. So it's very sectarian. Then within the Sunnis, you have this political aspect of some things. So you have the Ba'ath Party. So to the east, you have Sunnis. To the west and southwest, you have Shia. North and northwest are your Kurds. And amongst them all, you have some of each scattered, right? But the biggest thing they did was kept the Shia and the Kurds oppressed. And within the Sunnis, if you weren't Ba'athist, you were oppressed. And if you were Ba'athist, you walked the line. Anybody that didn't walk the line was beheaded. That's how he maintained power. And the only way you could get educated in the country, for the most part, was being Sunni. If you keep your enemy dumb, he can't overthrow you. So we've come in and we've overthrown that government. Now we've got to stand another government up. That's part of civil affairs. So the 82nd Airborne and the civil affairs from the Army, they worked to try to institute this local government in the city of Fallujah. And now we're looking at, wow, how are we going to put a mayor and council in place that is not corrupt? Because they're not educated if they're not Ba'athist or Sunni, you know. So how are we going to put some non-corrupt people in there? So it's hard, you know. Well, we can't put Jethro in there. He can't even read and write. So it's a tricky balancing act that they had to play. And they did the best they could. So we go in there and we start meeting with them. Little did we know that they had already been pumping them up. What little bit that they would get out there that, hey, we're leaving. The Marines are coming. Y'all don't want to mess with them. Well, so now all they're doing is instigating.
Yeah, they're amping them up.
Yeah, they're instigating the Mujahideen. So the very first time that we go into the city, they're like, oh, okay. We start taking rounds and RPG fire. And that was my introduction to combat.
So we talked earlier about how when you're that 18, 19-year-old and you're itching for that combat and you want it, now all of a sudden you're what, 20, early to mid-20s?
26.
So, and
I think I'm 25 or 26 at this time.
You're married. Do you have 2 children?
I got 2 kids at this time.
What's your mindset now?
A lot different.
And
Complete
you've
opposite.
been a police officer. You know, you've worked at Airport Police, Dixon County. So you've been around some stuff, you know, not a hyper-focused one area like that's going to be. So how does your mindset change from being that young Marine that is wanting the fight? Because I think all men at some point have that grandiose idea of wanting to be in that fight, prove themselves some way, and you're going to be okay because I'm me. And now here you are. You're in it.
Yeah, I'm in it. And it's a lot different at that point in time. I've got a different take on it. I'm looking at it differently from a tactics perspective. I'm looking at it differently from a mental perspective. I'm looking at it differently from a personal perspective. Hey, I've got a wife and kids back home that I want to make it back home to.
Your Marines that you're responsible for.
Exactly. I was going to say, I have these Marines in my charge that I want to make sure they make it back home to their family as well. But it's not only that, it's these other Marines that are on this convoy with us, because we're all in this together. So it's a lot different when you're looking at it from a leadership perspective as a sergeant than as a lance corporal out there getting some trigger time.
Right.
But yeah, so we get back, and then it's about a week later. I know Colonel Olson had written a letter to the mayor, and we set up what we call a CMOC, Civil Military Operations Center. It's outside our gate, outside our compound, I should say, outside Camp Bahia, and it's close to the Cloverleaf. And what that is a very small compound. And what we're wanting the civilian populace to do is come to us, right? And we'll help them if they help us. Not only that, we're making salacia payments, goodwill salacia payments. Sorry, we killed your cow. Here's you $500. We know that was your beef and your milk. Sorry, we ran through your garden and mowed down your field. Here's you $100. Things like that. We blew up your car. Here's you $600. So you can come here and make claims. Not only that, we were trying to institute some projects. Think of the CCC back here during the day, the Civilian Conservation Corps. So we were trying to get them to kind of start their own CCC, and we were managing those contracts and funneling that money to that. And next thing we know, there is a major issue, something major going on over on the east side at the Tartar Bridge. And word makes it back with the news cycle being 24/7, and Al Jazeera's got it out there and it's hitting all the mainstream. We got 3 Blackwater contractors strung up at the Tartar Bridge.
And for people listening that might not know what Blackwater contractors are, they're guys that are former military, and Blackwater is a United States company, and basically they hire the contractors that supplement the military forces over there that
Correct.
are going over there and doing jobs, maybe doing dignitary protection or doing different type of jobs that help supplement the military.
That's correct. And those guys were making a supply delivery. It was supposed to be a supply delivery into the city to some SF, and some things going on in the city is what was going on. There was a former Navy SEAL. Scott was one of those guys, Helson. And then, so a lot of those guys are former operators, special forces operators or infantry guys, that do those kind of things. But, that was the breaking point for General Mattis. And at that point, we put on a major PSYOPs, psychological operations mission, and we put it out throughout the town, throughout the city of Fallujah. You got 48 hours for all women and children to get out of the town. We put a blockade around the entire city of Fallujah, and General Mattis sent another unit down from Ramadi to augment us. We surrounded Fallujah. We brought in parts of 7th Marines from out west, from the Jordanian border. We surrounded the city of Fallujah. If all males of military and fighting age were not allowed outside the city, and all women, children, and elderly, we allowed to get out of the city. And we told them 48 hours, we're coming in, and we're going to clean this place up. And that's exactly what we did, or we started to do. We got a few blocks in, and keep in mind, we had reporters embedded with us. There was reporters embedded during Desert Storm, and that was back during the days of cable news. Here we are in 2004, everything's satellite. Back in the 90s, there was no such, early 90s, there wasn't the internet. Everything is immediate live stream. You've got all these 24-hour news networks, BBC, CNN, MSNBC, Fox, everybody out there reporting now. And as we start taking casualties, 2004 is an election year. And we're taking casualties. We knew we were going to take casualties. This is this operation is codenamed Vigilant Resolve. This is the first Battle of Fallujah is codenamed Vigilant Resolve. And we're moving in the city. But President Bush starts taking approval hit numbers. And they tell us, pull back. So we pull back, but we keep our perimeter. So we're not fighting as much. And then we start allowing humanitarian aid into the city. And we're going to allow them to bury some of their dead. And what winds up happening is in this humanitarian aid, they start smuggling more weapons and more Mujahideen fighters into the city. And we go back to this CMOC, right outside the city. And I'll never forget General Mattis sitting there. I was sitting in the room at the time with the elders, the sheikhs, the imams of the city of Fallujah, which is the city of mosque. And General Mattis telling them, listen, I'm coming into the city. Y'all have made this deal that y'all got peace in there, that y'all are taking care of things. I'm going to come into the city, and there better not be a shot fired. And they're begging. They don't. The two things they don't like our tanks, our M1A1 Abrams. One, they shake the ground, and one, those Sabo rounds will go through anything. And they don't like our close air support. They just don't like those for obvious reasons. So they beg, and General Mattis says, okay, I'll tell you, I'm not going to bring those. He said, but in a little bit more colorful terms, if you mess with me, history will write books about what the Marines have done in this city for years to come, because we will kill you all. And that day they didn't do anything. But a couple days later, they wanted to fight some more. But we could not go into the city. Every time we would go in, we would do some raids. We would roll up guys, some of the bad actors here and there. But we never could put on a full assault. again, it was an election year. So the White House could not get behind a battle plan. And I know there were a lot of battle plans drawn, which were eventually implemented in Phantom Fury in November, which was what we call Fallujah 2, Phantom Fury. I think you referenced Phantom Fury earlier.
Yes.
So we go into Phantom Fury, but I can. There's a photo out there. It's a pretty good photo, and I like it. I don't remember who the photographer is, but I just remember getting to call the mission. It's kind of funny because I recall being at the train station north of Fallujah. And so keep in mind, as a civil affairs NCO, I'm an attachment to the battalion. Civil affairs is not an internal part of an infantry battalion. It is just an attachment to support that battalion. And so we fall under H&S Company, Headquarters and Service Company. And I can still remember we're coming into Jolan. We're going to, there's some couple bad actors that we've really got to go in and get. And this is still during Vigilant Resolve. But we send two of our companies on a flanking motion coming from the west, moving east into the Jolan district, which is in the northwest portion of Fallujah. And so that would have been Echo and Golf Company, and Fox Company and H&S Company were at the train station laying down a base of fire. And I'm up there, and next thing I hear my team leader, Captain Coast, he's like, Sergeant Mack, he says, you need to go down and see Captain Stoddard. They need an FO. And I get down there, and they're talking about, for some reason, all the forward observers had gone with a maneuver element, and nobody had stayed with the base of fire. So I'll never forget getting down there, and this young captain, of course, at this time, this captain, he's probably just a few years older than I am, right? He's a captain.
Yeah, I was going to say, it has to be at least your age, if not a little bit older.
Yeah, he's just a few years older than I am. And keep it in mind, I'm there as all he knows me as is civil affairs, not realizing that everybody in civil affairs, that's just a secondary MOS for us. We all have primary MOSs. And mine just happened to be as an artillery forward observer. And he's like, what are you going to do, Sergeant Mack? Throw money at him? I was like, well, sir, I said, I'm just going to tell you, I said, my primary MOS is an artillery forward observer. He's like, well, I won't fire on that mosque, because we were taking a lot of RPG fire and some sniper fire from a mosque. Well, at that point, it's lost its Geneva protections. And so I still remember looking at his radio operator, and I pulled out my book, and I told him, I said, here, dial this frequency in. He's like, well, we have to call battalion. I said, no, you listen to me. I said, you dial this frequency in on your radio. I said, this is Alpha Battery's FDC. And he said, we can't talk to them. I said, dial it in and I'll talk to them. I said, So he dialed that in, and I get on the hooks. And of course, they immediately know when I call down the fire mission that they're talking to a real forward observer. They're not just talking to an infantry troop out there on the line calling a fire, trying to call in a fire mission. And it was a little bit different as well. The battalion call sign was Gunsmoke. And I revert to my call sign from Mike Battery. And I remember calling down, letting her know it was Pale Horse calling, and that I had a fire mission for them. And when I got my message to Observer, or when they give it, I made one correction. Their spotting round was pretty good. I made one correction, fire for effect. And I remember getting my message to Observer. I can read it back. Alpha. It was Alpha. 3 rounds, 8 guns, 3 rounds. Shake and bake. High explosive, white phosphorus. And I even got questioned when I called down my shell fuse combo. Because I called it in as a hardened target in order to be able to get the white phosphorus. Can't use white phosphorus on troops. But I wanted to make sure that I got my point across. Typical artillery battery is 6 guns. We were firing 8-gun batteries over there. So they fired it down. Once I got rounds complete, that's 24 rounds hitting in less than 60 seconds.
It's a lot.
Yeah. And so that's 16 high explosive and 8 white phosphorus rounds hitting. Killing immediately everything within 100 meters of each one of those rounds. And they're dispersed 75 meters apart. So they're overlapping. It's a 100-meter casualty radius of each round. 150 concussion. It's smoky out there, and I'm waiting. And I go ahead and register I can still remember registering the target, and I'm waiting to call in my battle damage assessment, and I was like, holy cow! All I did, you would think that was a battle cry that I just launched, because more Mooj started running out of the south, coming that way. I was like, there's no way. I was like, it can't be this easy. And I'll still never forget. There's one word, and you'll hear it out of a lot of military people, that you're taught to never use on the radio, that's misused a lot. And that's repeat. That is reserved for firing the last data on the gun immediately. And because it is misused, a lot of people will verify. So once they come into range, I'm like, I just hit that thing, hit that area 24 times. Y'all think I can't do it again? So I still remember calling in an immediate suppression mission and dropping 200 because they know my location and they know theirs. So what that meant was I wanted them to drop, which was going south away from me, 200 yards or 200 meters, to drop 200 and fire for effect again, immediate suppression, and start putting those rounds on range again. And never forget it, watching it happen again. I'm like, okay, so any more of y'all want to come join the party? So never forget it. But I was like, this is what I signed up for. And then going into the city, and I'll never forget looking down my iron sights and pulling the trigger and watching him fall. And that right there, the first time was, wow, did I just do that? And then it became second nature, and I became numb to it. I saw a lot of my buddies injured, severely injured, killed, and I rode a lot with Echo Company. I did a lot of missions with Echo Company. Captain Zimbeck requested me quite a bit. Then Captain Zimbeck. Some people out there may recognize that name. Later promoted to major, and was later killed in action. But he was dubbed the Lion of Fallujah. I watched Doug Zimbeck take a 7.62 round right to the forehead of his Kevlar. Went through his Kevlar, penetrated his scalp, and then traced between his skull and his scalp around and came out right above his ear. That's how he got his first Purple Heart. But he's like, that's not going to keep me down. And he never left the battlefield. Had Doc, patch him up, and he was right back in the fight, leading the fight that day. But seeing a lot of guys, out there hitting IEDs. We hit an IED. I've got some shrapnel that came into the Humvee from one of the IEDs that we hit. It was a V-bed, a vehicle-borne IED. Looked like a little Chevy S10, little bitty Toyota pickup truck, that was laden with explosives, and they waited for us to come through. So it was no joke. Those were the days of IEDs, and anybody you saw standing out at times either they shouldn't have been out at, or times that people should have been out and nobody was out but a few people, they were up to no good. There was something going on, so you had to keep your head on a swivel, and it takes its toll on you, all of it, mentally, and keeping in mind, at this time, I'm falling asleep at night or whenever I can get some rest, and I'm hearing rounds cracking overhead, whizzes, and I'll fall asleep. I'm praying as I'm falling asleep, and Lord, protect us, get us through this, and the whole time, and I've still got it to this day. You reach up and you pat your breast pocket. Everybody carries that last letter. I'm fortunate that my wife never got that. But you think about that, and you think about the guys that did, and there's one or two people, several people know, hey, this is where it's at. Everybody keeps it in the same place because you want it to get back to your loved ones,
right?
Just in case something happens, in case it happens to you. And there's a lot of guys that it did, and it takes its toll on you when you go to pull that letter out of a buddy's pocket, and you've got to send it back to his next of kin.
There is much more to this conversation between Jeff and Dave, so stay tuned for the second half coming next week.